YOLO, what's up everyone? Hope you're doing awesome. It's your homeboy, aka the man, the myth, and of course the legend. That's me, Zack Miller. Hoping you guys have an amazing, or have had amazing morning so far, wherever you are consuming, listening to this. I appreciate you. It's episode, I was going to say 38, it's episode 58 of your favorite weekday show, Zack Miller Live. You know, the most originally named show in the history of live television shows. So, I think this is obvious, but first impressions are really important. And so I'm going to give you guys some random data points to prove my point. So apparently, if you meet someone and they do not like you, or there's some sort of negative feeling associated towards you, it takes 35, I kid you not, 35 positive opportunities, situations, conversations, whatever, on average, to get them to actually start to maybe like you. Wow. So if you mess up, you're kind of in trouble there. So think about that, right? So, and I don't think it has to be something crazy where, you're like, oh, I have to be perfect and all that stuff. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if people think you're a donkey the first time they meet you, for them to start giving you the thought and approach that you want them to, it takes 35 positive interactions to get them back to being like, ooh, I like what he's saying, right? So think about, if you rub someone the wrong way, and we've all done this, right? And I'm not saying be perfect. I definitely do it. But isn't that crazy? 35 positive interactions with someone to get them to look at you kind of the way that you want them to. So let's think about examples of how this could be. It would be funny if I was talking about 35 positive interactions on the 35th edition instead of the 58th. But I didn't think about it then. Next time. So let's think about negative scenarios. And I don't necessarily think it means oh, that guy is wearing jeans and a t-shirt, he looks like an idiot. I don't think that's it. Or he doesn't have his hair done, or he should shave his beard. I don't necessarily think that's where these negative thoughts come from. I think it's more of you say something that someone maybe unfollows you for on social media because you said something crazy, right? You're it's super controversial in the wrong kind of way. Think, I don't know. You've seen these scenarios. It could be, let's say, someone schedules a meeting and that person is late or doesn't show up. That's usually not a good thing. Or maybe they are just super negative about someone and are gossiping a lot. That could be something. It could be that you are expecting one thing from someone, but you don't receive it in time, so a lot of it is expectation based as well. So I'm expecting someone to show up at a certain time for a coffee meeting, for an interview, for a phone call, for this, make a payment, whatever. And then that thing doesn't happen. What do you think? You're going to start being that person is untrustworthy. That person is not someone that I want to be associated with. Maybe it happens multiple times. Maybe like me, oftentimes I give people the benefit of the doubt. So I'm not one of those 35. I'm whatever. I'll get someone life happens. So if something needs to change, I just say, cool, it's not a big deal. But if that scenario, that situation happens over and over again. Let's say you schedule a meeting with someone and they're constantly late. Here's a great example. So Byron Morgan, who many of you guys might know, good friend, used to be a really, really good friend, but then he moved but he was always late. So much so that we would actually sometimes start to tell people, hey, our meeting is at 1, but we would tell Byron our meeting is at like 12:15, 12:30, so that, if you guys know him, you know this happens, like that he would actually show up on time. And if he's a little early, then that's great. I don't think he's ever been on time. And I mean that. And now he lives in Boston, so I wonder how that goes. My buddy Jeremy and I, Jeremy Johnson, used to be like, is that real time or Byron time? That's funny. But I mean, you know these people. And so you want to make sure that whatever you can to impress these people, or even better, impressing is great, but not tick off or piss off these people for doing things that are pretty simple, right? I hate being late to anything, right? So I guess there's that the Lombardi rule, like 15 minutes early, and then from being 15, like if you're not 15 minutes early or 10 minutes later, there's something like that. But 15 minutes is super early. And so I know like there are certain people that I have to be there super early, or they're going to be like, you're late. Now, I'm wondering what you guys think about this from like a phone call standpoint. Like how early is too early to call, right? If you're on a conference line, I think it's fine to get on that call 15 minutes early. It might be not the best use of your time if you're doing a bunch of calls all day. But I try to call, like, let's say the meeting starts at 1 o'clock. I try and call at 12:59 or at 1 o'clock. I try never to be, even a minute late because that person, if they are on time themselves, they're wondering, like, where's this person? It just happens. And so when you have that negative thought with someone, you are potentially, depending on how they feel about it, you're potentially moving into the pit of misery. And yes, that's an ode to that commercial with Dilly Dilly. Still looking for Bud Light to sponsor the show. That would be interesting. We could just have like a poster back there somewhere. That'd be funny. So first impressions matter. Now, once you have a good first impression, you want to make sure that you basically never screw something up. Or if something does happen, you give ample notice, especially from a timing perspective. Like if you know that you're going to be late, tell the person as soon as possible. So if you're running 15 minutes behind, like I had a meeting on Monday and the guy was going to be 15 minutes late. He called me and said, I'm going to be 15 minutes late. And I was like, cool. I appreciate that. Now that expectation isn't why are you 15 minutes late? It's okay. He told me, I understand. Communication oftentimes can be very helpful. And if you don't communicate, that's where you piss people off. Like setting expectations, saying, I am going to be late. I'm sorry. Is that still okay? Oftentimes, the person will be like, okay. Because usually people have put in some sort of buffer, making sure that a negative scenario, like being late, doesn't hurt things. Also, another real tip. I actually took this out of the book, but like it was written and then it didn't make the cut. So when you meet someone the first time, this is hard for me because I like to talk a lot. Let the other person do the majority of the talking. Here's your Zack hack of the week. Let the other person that you're talking to do the majority of the talking. You can guide it with questions, sure, but let them do the majority of the talking. Why? Because if you leave the meeting and you've been the one who overwhelmingly spoke more, what they will say is, man, that person talked a lot. It's not a good thing. At least in the first impression, right? So be thinking about ways that you can have a couple questions in the can, in your back pocket. Maybe it's something like, and it should be like, oh, what are you working on? Because that's what everyone does. Think about questions like, where are you going on vacation? What are you doing in your free time? What kind of project are you doing that really excites you? Stuff like that goes a long way. And it allows them to tell you about things that they're really passionate about. And that can be really powerful. So first impressions matter. They matter a lot, so much so that if you have a negative interaction with someone, it takes 35 positive interactions to get them back to 0, or I guess to 1. So don't screw up. Don't make a bad first impression or second impression or third impression. Set expectations. Do what you say you're going to do. Undersell, over deliver. Be awesome. Episode 58 out.